Hello, welcome back to another video on Brandon Lee Collectibles. In this video I've got my folder, and it's got all the original from 1994, the same year as the release of the film, The Crow, which are the trading cards, and then that's the cover shot there. And as we just turn the page, you have all different 1 to 100, all the different images from the movie, and then on the back you have just a small inscription there, just regarding that particular story or that segment from the film. And one of the things I really love about the trading cards are the red images from the film. You have the shots that were the sort of red shots as the revenge shots in the film, but also the very dark and gothic-y images are really great too. But you just see there different shots of Brandon Lee cast in the film. Really fantastic to have these, and it's nice to have the complete set. I mean, I'm guessing there are probably sets out there that are incomplete, or maybe there are fans out there that have only got certain numbers, but this is the whole set, so it's good to have a complete collection. So yeah, I'll just go through just a few of those, and then that's a famous one there, the one with a bird from the film. There's that one there. Really fantastic images. So it's nice to have, like I say, the whole set. So that's the trading cards. That's just another from the back images there. And then this here, actually, which is actually in this same folder, which is this was an advertising for a magazine that I actually I remember at the time I ripped this out of the magazine when the film came out of Rapid Fire. So when it came out on video, because that's what it's saying there on the mini poster. So I actually ripped that out of the magazine at the time. So it's quite good to have from the time period. And then this one here, this is like a press sheet from The Crow. And then on the other side, you have all the inscription about the film on the back. And then if I just go to the back of this one, you have a lot of different cartoon, well not cartoon, but you have the comic book sort of style images from The Crow, which are really great, and these are all different sort of limited edition trading cards, again really sort of dark and gothic-y images. And this one here, that's a few shots there, really sort of dark and gothic-y and sort of mysterious images from the James O'Barr original creation comic book of The Crow. And then just to go on from that, I have this book which I've had for many years, which is called The Warrior Within by John Little. And basically it's all the philosophical teachings of Bruce Lee, which there's still very few people that know Bruce Lee on his philosophical teachings and his way of life and his ways of thinking, as maybe not so much serious fans know him like that. They refer to him as the martial arts action star, but there's also this side to him which was also very fascinating, and it still is. And with the philosophical teachings you can incorporate it into your own life, and that's what's the interesting part about it. But there is actually a section in here on Brandon Lee which I'm going to find and read a few philosophical teachings which was also by him, and what his thoughts were on just life in general. And these are just random quotes that he or different sayings that he came up with that you got there. That's I think that I showed that in my other Bruce Lee book, but that's again on the set Game of Death. with Brandon and Shannon there. That's a really sweet shot of them all together there. And then you have some of their sayings in here, or from interview talks. Brandon Lee just talks about random subjects, and he says in here, all I can tell you is that you cannot make choices in your own career, either career choice or choices when you're actually working as an actor, based on trying to downplay or live up to a comparison with somebody else. You just can't do that. You have to do your own work based on your own gut, your own instincts, and your own life. To me, it's a self-discovery. It's a self-teaching process. You can't have somebody do things for you, which is interesting. And then this one here is about personalities, or people's personalities, and it says here, this is what he says, it's an interesting experience that should you ever talk to somebody who has a real big chip on their shoulder, it's like their point of view is entirely viewed through that chip on their shoulder. That's what filters everything they say. And to somebody on the outside looking at a person like that, it's so painfully obvious what they're hung up on. But to the person that actually has the chip on their shoulder, it's their whole world, and they can't see anything without it. So what he was saying there is that you should never talk to somebody who has a real chip on their shoulder, basically. That's obviously his example on that particular subject. And then just to move on a little bit from that, he's also other teachings that he says here is when you move down the road towards mastery of martial arts, and you know you are constantly moving down that road, you end up coming up against these barriers inside yourself that will attempt to stop you from continuing to pursue the mastery of the martial arts. And these barriers are such things as when you come up against your own limitations, when you come up against the limitations of your will, your ability, your natural ability, your courage, how you deal with success and failure as well, for that matter. And as you overcome each one of these barriers, you end up learning something about yourself, and sometimes things you learn about yourself can, to the individual, seem to convey a certain spiritual sense along with them. So this is also about sort of finding yourself and finding your ability in your own life, and what you're capable of doing, in which you can actually take it by surprise. You can actually be something or do something really good, and originally probably not thinking that is how you are, and it actually it turns out the better for you. So that was interesting. And then the section just down here, he says, it's funny, every time you come up against a true barrier to your progress, you are a child again, which I really love the way he expresses this. And it's very interesting to experience, to be reduced once again to the level of knowing nothing about what you're doing. I think there's a lot of room for learning and growth when that happens. If you face it head on and don't choose to say, screw that, I'm going to do something else. We reduce ourselves at a certain point in our lives, a kind of solitary purpose, things that we already know how to do. You know, because you don't want to have that experience of not knowing what you're doing, being an amateur again. And I think that's a rather unfortunate. It's so much more interesting and usually intimidating to put yourself in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen than to do something again that you already know essentially what the outcome will be within 3 or 4 points either way. So again, his way of expressing that is that he's talking about how you're being reduced to a child again, which I said earlier, which he really loves, which I really love the way he put that, is that it's so true that you can be given a task or goal to do and know nothing about it. And I just find that fascinating, that you become vulnerable all over again, like a child basically. But you have all the Bruce Lee quotes, a lot of different teachings and sayings by him, which I'm not going to go through that now, but for example of that, he would use the sayings of using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation, meaning that it's not a Japanese way or a Chinese way or an Indian or an Indonesian way, it's having no way as way. And then limitation means that I don't limit myself to any particular style or system. So he wasn't limited. So really he's talking about his own system of Jeet Kune Do, which is the system that he developed over the course of his lifetime. And then the other saying he would say is to absorb what is useful, to reject what is useless, or to add or specifically your own, basically. And so it's good to absorb things for yourself and then strip away what is useless and then add what is your own through your own personal teachings and findings. So they're really interesting, but also can be quite heavy, I think, to understand. And sometimes I'm reading it and think I have no idea what I've read, so you have to reread it and go over it again. But it's great. It's great to adapt it into your own life, and then excuse me. Just from that, I just want to read this, which is Alex Proyas, which is this is April 11th, 1994. Going back to The Crow again, The Crow was completed to honour Brandon Lee, and I've got this shot in here which is one of my favourite shots of Brandon Lee. I think it's one of the best of him, which was obviously taken on set in between takes. I honestly don't know a lot about behind the photo, but it was obviously taken in between setups for scenes, etc. while he was waiting. So there's obviously a photographer there that took that shot, and it's obviously turned out to be worldwide known and a very popular image of him. But just for this in here, regarding Alex Proyas, what he speaks of The Crow in 1994, the year of its release, he says, there was a time when it seemed the film would never see the light of day. All of us who had worked with him were devastated by the loss of Brandon. Finishing the film was the farthest thing from anyone's mind. But people started to rely behind completing it. First, several members of the cast and Brandon's friends and family expressed their feelings that Brandon would want his work to be seen. I think they were right. Brandon had put his heart into his character. He really cared about this film and wanted it to be something special. I think that shows. There will always be a lot of justifiable anger over Brandon's death, but there is one glimmer of optimism here. The film itself, Brandon's film, in years to come, people will still be dazzled by his brilliance as we were. And that is actually very true. There's even people I know or friends I know that have seen the film even recently. Even I watched it again recently in a long time, and it still stands out. It's still brilliant. It's just one of those one-off films that's turned into a cult classic, and it will always be remembered, and it will always be known as Brandon's film. So there it is. So that's a bit more insight into The Crow and philosophical teachings of Bruce Lee and of course Brandon Lee. So good to keep talking about it and to keep learning all the time on different subjects on them. So thanks for watching, and I hope to do another one soon. Bye.